Hey guys, it's me, reobebo here, and let me ask you guys a question. How many of you guys actually owned the GameCube back in the day?
Say what?
Well, you should, because the GameCube is easily one of the most underrated systems ever. And most of you guys at least own a Wii, so you definitely should at least get the controller and memory card. But the game I'm going to talk about is one of the most underrated games for one of the most underrated systems ever, and that game is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. And the story for Path of Radiance is actually really good and rather mature for a Nintendo exclusive. And by mature, I don't mean like there's lots of blood and gore, but by adult issues like racism and the death and violence that war brings upon a nation or even a person in general. And sure, it's not the deepest, most complicated thing you've heard in a game, but compared to whatever Nintendo exclusives they are, which are Mario, Zelda, this is actually some of the best. It really ranks high up there with like Eternal Darkness as some of the best stories that the Nintendo has to offer. You start the game off as Ike, the son of Grail, the leader of the Grail mercenaries, and at the beginning chapters of the game you do some very simple mercenary missions, but soon you're engulfed in one of the greatest battles of your hometown of Crimea when the neighboring nation of Dane decides to assault it, and something really tragic happens to Ike, which forces him to fight Dane, bring Crimea back to power, and stop the assault for good. The story does get better and a lot deeper as you move on, and let me tell you, one of the twists in the game is easily one of the best twists I've ever had, ever. The twist I did not expect at all, and it's easily one of the most underrated twists in gaming. I never hear anyone talk about it, which is a shame since I thought it was really well done. And to be honest, I loved the story all the way through. It really kept me interested through the whole game. Graphically, this game is good, but nothing really to write home about. It is the first Fire Emblem to have 3D graphics, and the first to have CGI cutscenes. They do look good, but they come in very, very rarely, and it's a bit disappointing that they could have really done more with it. But overall, they're not bad graphics, they just could have been better, and but they still do their job well.
Sound-wise, it's similar to the game's graphics in the fact that it's nice and it does its job, but it could have been so much more than it actually was. And I have nothing against the soundtrack because the soundtrack actually does fit with the game's theme and the battles that you fight. My main gripe is the fact that there's just so little voice acting in the game. And they could have really have made the game much more cinematic and the story much more involving if they got some nice good voice actors into the mix instead of just reading text the whole way through. I mean, I'm not against text, but I'm just saying that it felt to me that the developers missed a huge opportunity in making the Fire Emblem series a lot more cinematic.
The gameplay is where Fire Emblem really shows its strengths, because there are some really cool features of the game that just make these epic battles all the more interesting. The first thing that this Fire Emblem did was have a base screen, so you can take a breather, strategize, and upgrade your characters before your big battle.
Repeating, of course, percentage of survival.
Oh, it's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, thumbs up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Oh my god, he just ran in. Save him!
Oh, geez, stick to the plane!
Oh jeez, let's go. Stick to the plan, Shove.
Stick to the plane!
Oh gee, oh fuck. Give me the Mario Duncan!
The other thing that makes this Fire Emblem different from other strategy games is the rock, paper, scissors battle system, since there are 4 different types of weapons: the lance, the sword, the axe, and the bow. And the way it goes is that lances beat swords, while swords beat axes, and axes beat lances. But the bow is outside of the system because you can only aim your bow at a distance, and it really makes these battles a lot more interesting, a lot more strategic, which is a big plus for a strategy game. Not only that, there's a rock, paper, scissors system for magic, like for example, fire beats wind, wind beats thunder, and thunder beats fire. And using these tactics wisely can be the difference between victory or defeat, which adds even an extra layer of strategy to this game, which is another huge plus. There are also a variety of classes, and they all get the chance to change at a certain level, and these moments are the most satisfying to me because seeing your characters become much stronger after they've been fighting with you for so long feels just so satisfying to me.
The gameplay aspect that's most interesting in my opinion is the fact that once one of your character dies, he or she is gone for good. And not only is this just a gameplay annoyance, it's actually also an emotional, like, sadness. Well, not that much, but at least a little bit, because each of your troops actually has a part in the story. Well, good amount of them at least. And if one of the major ones dies, you actually feel pretty sad that he or she's gone for good. And to me, that really helps as a strategy game to really help you strategize, but also helps the story a lot more that each of your troops that recruits with you actually have an actual role in the story. So with all the good things about this game, why does it need more love? Well, it's one of the few Nintendo series that has not made it to the mainstream audience yet. And since Nintendo's such a huge company, they could easily have given Fire Emblem Path of Radiance a lot more advertising than it did, but they just chose not to since maybe they thought the game just wouldn't sell as much as their Marios and Zeldas. And it's a real shame about that. And also, a little thing I also hate is that when I play Super Smash Bros. Brawl, anyone who I verse with, they have no idea who Ike is or where he came from, which is also a bit of a shame also. But honestly, in conclusion, if you like strategy RPGs, then get this game as soon as possible, since this game is actually my favorite strategy game ever, and the price at Amazon is just getting higher and higher and higher. And with that, guys, I'm reobebo, and peace out.